Yeah, she got her hand out now. This lesson came from, and I mentioned it a few months ago when I taught, and at the end of it was the end of one of the chapters in the book, The Traveler's Gift. The book stops here, and really the base of that chapter is personal responsibility. The goal of this lesson is simply just define it, but also who, how, and why. Why are we talking about it? How does it apply? And how can it affect your life? And how can you make decisions to make your life better, make your family's life better? Definition of personal responsibility, the best one I found was personal responsibility means holding yourself accountable for your own actions and exercising self-control. Those with personal responsibility work to understand that their own power and agency in a given situation, they known external factors matter, but also understand that their individual responsibility as well. Implementing personal responsibility means that especially after mistakes, you take time to figure out how you could have done things better and make plans to improve the future. Personal responsibility also includes the ability to take credit for positive contributions you've made. You know, when I read that, I was like, as a sales guy, I tell everybody, toot your own horn because nobody else will. There's nothing wrong with letting people know what God has done for you and how God has blessed you, because you're letting people know that it's real, right, and that what we're doing is worth it. Mark 8:27 and 30, and Jesus went out and his disciples into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. And by the way, he asked his disciples, saying unto them, who do men say that I am? And they answered, John the Baptist, but some say Elias, and others say one of the prophets. And he said to them, but whom do you say I am? And Peter answered and said unto him, thou art the Christ. My question to you morning, whom do you say he is? Who is he to you? Who is your relationship? And that's what it was. They were defining their relationship with God and with Jesus, saying, who is he? Where is that relationship at? Is it just a friend? Is it a personal? Is it somebody you know? Is it somebody that you say his name and he's right there? And you can pick up that phone and you know they're there. You know, I have a cousin that's backsliding, and I always know that when he calls, I'll answer because I don't want to miss that call. And he knows it. He says, well, I always could tell when he's had a bad day. He's a nurse at St. E, and he'll call me on his way home. He said, Jason, I tried. I can hear in his voice. He's cracking. What's wrong, Matt? I tried hard. Matt, it's okay. Jason, I lost 3 today. Matt, I know you can't tell me details, but God's in control. But it's that relationship that we have that I'm not giving up on him, that I know that he'll be here, back here one day. Yeah. And that's what he is who is he to you? We all have our own answers, our own stories, our own testimonies, our lives and decisions we've made, directions we took. It's easy to say it's not my fault. I didn't choose this life. I didn't want this. But we're wrong. We all make decisions that affect our outcomes. We choose our school. We choose our jobs. We choose where we apply. We meet someone special. We choose that person. We ask that question to them to partner us and make our lives together. You make that decision. I've always been careful. This morning, I told my wife this week, I said, when I talk or teach, I'm always really careful not to pull the veil back too far. And really, I just don't want to get back to hurt my mom. I'm just being real. Yeah. But this morning, I want to, God had I think like he's nudged me to open in. So Mom, if you see this, know that I love you and I forgave you a long time ago. But this world will say that directions are fixed, that you can't choose your outcome, that your future is most certainly planned for you. But you understand that 2 Corinthians 5 says, therefore any man be in Christ, he's a new creature, and old things are passed away. Behold, all things become new. I remember my grandmother told me that after I got the Holy Ghost, and I took it to heart, and I knew that all these things behind me, that all the family, all the pain, all the problems is behind me. And I remember as a young man deciding as a husband and a father, and I remember telling my wife this, I have no idea what to do, but I know what not to do. And I remember making that decision. This is not how I'm going to live. This is not what I'm going to do. But I remember making those understanding. And, yesterday I Googled statistics of kids growing up with a father's home. It says 85% of the youth who are currently in prison grew up in a fatherless home. 7 of 10 youth that are housed in state-operated correctional facilities, including detention, come from a fatherless home. 39% of students in the United States come from first grade to the senior year through high school. Children without a father are 4 times more likely to be living in poverty than children with a father. Children from fatherless homes are twice as likely to drop out of school before graduating than children whose fathers in their lives. 24 million children in the United States live in a home where their biological father is not present. It equates to 1 in 3 children in the United States not having access to a father. I mean, it just keeps coming. Children who live against single-parent homes are 2 times more likely to commit suicide than children in 2-parent home. Living in a fatherless home is a contributing factor to substance abuse, alcoholism. 75% of adolescent parents being treated for substance abuse came from a single-parent home. You know, I found 25, 30 of them, and they just keep applying, and you know, and almost you see the marks, and everything's just against me. You know, all of this was decided against me.
Right.
You know, I could go on and on, the abuse, neglect, not seeing, not having a parent there for, when I say years, I didn't have anybody there but my grandmother. But when you make that decision, I remember telling my wife when I asked her to marry me, I said, I don't know what to do, but I know what not to do.
Sure.
But you see, I had a God, and I found a God here at TAC, and I said, this is the only real thing I have. This is all I know. This is all I understand. It never failed me. Could I have chosen this? Yes. Could I have made excuses? Yes. Could I have said, you know, everything is against me. Mm-hmm. Everything says I should be a failure. Everything says I should be divorced. Everything says I should be living in poverty. Everything says I should not be here right now.
Right.
But you see, God was in control.
Right.
But also I was in control of my decisions, and I said,
That's
I'm
right.
not going to live this way.
Right.
Good.
I'm not going to go that direction. And I'm going to be honest, am I super close with my side of the family? No. Because you see that, and there's no examples, there's no life, there's nothing there that I want, there's nothing I see that I want my kids to be like that. I want to see that, I want more of that in my life. Because I know what that leads to. Mm-hmm. I know what that gives you. And yes, God gives you choices, God, but you have to take that personal responsibility and says, I don't know what to do, but I know what not to do.
Right.
And you're making that decision. God, James 4:8 says, come near to God and he will come near to you. It's as simple as that. When you choose to live for God and you read your Bible every day, because it's not just that's that relationship. You want, you know, I always hear that I want God to speak to me. I want God's voice in my life. I want to know. It's right there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's God's word speaking to you.
Right.
Yesterday morning, I read my Bible before I started studying, and I'm just crying. I said, God, you're already giving it to me. You're already showing it to me. You're already giving it to me. He's speaking to me through His word.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You almost can't talk about adversity without speaking of Job. Job 1:6 says, now there was a day the sons of God came present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among him. And the Lord said unto Satan, hence comest thou? Then Satan answered, Lord, and said, I, from going to and fro the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? And there's none like him in the earth, and a perfect upright man, and feareth God, and escheweth evil. God is saying to Satan there, I know him,
Mm-hmm.
and I trust him.
Right.
And I have a relationship with him. Then Satan answered, said, Lord, and said, doth Job fear not God for naught? Satan is saying his fears for you are no reason to give him a reason he will fail. He said, if you take everything from him, you've given him so much, you take that, he'll walk away from it. That's what he's saying there.
Yeah.
Verse 10 tells me Satan already knew about Job. I'll go back up. Verse 10 says, hast now thou made a hedge around about him, about his house, and all the inside, and hast thou blessed the work of his hands, and his substance increased in his land. Satan understood Job. He knew about his relationship. He saw Job's decisions. Mm-hmm. He knew that God had his hand upon Job. Verse 11 says, but put forth thy hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee thy face. Verse 11 says, devil tells me that the devil must ask permission, that Satan has to ask permission to do anything to God's chosen. Yeah. Right. So next time we ask questions, why me? I hope it rings in your ears that you say, why not me? Mm-hmm. Know that it's come not to destroy you, but to make you, and to show as a living testimony to you and your family. I said it 2 weeks ago, and I wonder today if Job would have failed, if Job would have walked away, if Job would have said, I can't do this. It's too hard. What do we be talking about today? Would I mention his name? Job's family, his wife, everybody around him, his friends were watching his reactions. They're watching not just the end result, but they're watching the process. Yeah. They're watching what they're going through. And that's what they're doing to us. We're all human. Even Job questioned God, and did he get a response? Job 38:1, the Lord answered Job out of a whirlwind and said, who is this that darkened the counsel of my words without knowledge? Verse 3 says, gird up thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee and answer thee. I still laugh when I read this. My girls had a family prayer, and Caroline spoke up one morning. She said, God's telling Joe to put his big boy drawers on. He's telling him to be a man to grow up. Verse 4 says, where thou, when I laid the foundations of the earth, declare, if not thou'st understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest, who thou stretchest thy line upon it? Whereupon the foundations that are fastened, who laid the cornerstone? What God is saying is, says, where were you when I laid the foundations of the world? Right. I was laying the cornerstones of it. One verse says that I hung the stars and made them twinkle in the sky, is what he's saying. What are your troubles to me? And when you're saying it's too big, that I can't understand, that I can't help, but I hung the stars for you to see at night, that I put the moon in its place, that I put this, it means it's adversity it's preparing him for greatness. Sure. Right. That's all it was. He was making something for him. Mm-hmm. My question is, will you accept this preparation? Again, I ask the question, why me? I've asked that question now. Now I respond to myself, why not me? Yeah. I will be prepared for something. Proverbs 12:25 says, heaviness in my heart of a man maketh him stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. In every decision, every day, every problem, every conversation, we control how we make or choose our direction. I've told my girls this many times, you could almost wake up in the morning and tell yourself you feel bad, tell yourself this is wrong, and you'll feel yourself move down. Yeah. Right. You can make that decision to be good or bad. Yeah. You can make that decision, am I perfect? Far from it. Do I feel the world pushing in sometimes? Do I feel sometimes I'm going to crack? It's no different. You see, I have an understanding, I have a relationship with my wife, I have a relationship with my kids, and she knows without saying a word that I can walk in and she's like, what's wrong? I ain't saying nothing. And, okay, you going to tell me now or tell me later? And I always laugh. My 12-year-old, she'll be 12 this week, Caroline, Ellie, and I hear her voice, she's, Daddy, I love you, and I can feel it bring down because she sees it and I have a relationship and she understands that Dad's had a rough day without saying a word. And you can't tell me if my wife and my daughter can do that God can't do that. Right. That I have that relationship and God's not the same way and says, Jason, I love you. Jason, I'm here for you. Jason, what's going on? Come talk to me. You can talk to me now or you can talk to me later. It's kind of the same thing. Yeah. And he cares that much. Right. And you may say, but Jason, it's silly, and I feel silly, and how do you do that? It's a simple conversation. You just lay it out and say, God, this is how I feel. This is what hurts. This is what's going on. I had something in my life a few months ago that it happened, and it just hurt. And I said, God, I don't feel respected enough to do my family. It was something else and with work. And God, help me understand. Help me to get past it. And I poured my heart out. And guess what? Is it perfect? No. Do I feel like God gave it and blessed me? Yes. Do I feel like I'm past it? Yes. Because God has a plan. God has a plan for each of us. But you have to trust Him. You have to own it. You have to say, God, and be real with Him. The Bible says you get close to Him, and He'll get close to you. Right. You want a relationship with Him? You want that? You have to open your door. You have to step out. You have to say, God, I don't know what to do, but I know what not to do. Daniel 1:10 says, "Thou, King, hast made a decree, and every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sacket, and psaltery," and disclaimer, "and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image." What they're saying there is when you hear the music, everything stops, and you worship the golden image. Verse 11, it says, "Who falleth not down and worship, and he shall be cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace." And there were certain Jews that had set out affairs of providence of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Y'all know the story. "These men, O king, have not regarded thee, not served thy gods, nor worshiped thy golden image thou set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, "Is it true?" He's given them an option there. He's asking a question. "O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do you not serve my God, nor worship the golden image which I have set up?" Have you're not doing it my way, is what he's telling you. Verse 15, it says, "Now if we're ready, what time I hear the sound of cornet, the harp, the psaltery, the clarinet, all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image that I have made. But if you have not worshipped yet, shall cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace." What he's saying there is, if you don't stop and worship the God that I set up, you will die within the hour. "Who the God shall deliver you out of thy hands." It's one of my favorite stories. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said, "O King Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter." 17, "If it be so, our God, whom we serve, will be able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace and deliver us out of the hand of the king. But if not, let it be known, O king, that we will not serve thy gods nor worship thy golden image." Well, that's what he's saying is, I don't know the future. What they're saying is, I don't know what's going to happen. I can feel the heat. I know your rules. I know the law. I know everything you've set up. But what he's saying is, I do know that I will not stop looking toward Jesus. When I spoke last week and I talked about being aligned with God, and I almost wonder if they never even looked at the king. I almost wonder if they're there and the king is telling them, "You're going to die," and they said, "Okay, let it be known, we never stopped worshiping God."
Yeah.
I have to wonder, they didn't know what was going to happen. But when you're aligned with God and things are working out, God's taking care of things around you. God is choosing to make things right, and but I'm telling you, being negative, being claiming the victim, choosing pain, it's predictable. Choosing to claim to be the victim is easy. You know what's going to happen. It's predictable. We know that route. They knew what was going to happen. But they said no. But as the Hebrews said, "But if not, let it be known, we will not bow." Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you the future, but we do know if we choose the Lord, God will be with us. God will be with you and your family. God will save your family. God will choose and help you and be there for you when you call on that name. What if we said today that 2023 is behind us? 2024 is before us. I'm not gonna lie, 2024 starting out was rough. I feel like this week I just get started. Sickness, the freeze, it's just, but you know what? I told myself this week, I said, I'm not letting go of what God has promised me this year. God, I'm not letting go of God's promises because I know God. What if I said, I'm never letting go and I'm not stop looking up? But you see, this is why we do this. Verse 19, then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for he spake and commanded they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was to be heated. Down to 28, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who have sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies. They might not serve nor worship any God except their God. 29 says, therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak any times amiss against this God shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be made dunghill, because there is no other God that should deliver. What he's saying there is, they made a decision. They knew that what was going to happen. They knew, they felt the heat, they knew the furnace. But through that, and through them saying, we will not bow, through them saying, we're going to trust God, what Nebuchadnezzar said through all that jarble is, no other God but their God are you going to worship. And if you speak against their God, I'm going to make everything you own as a dunghill. What he's saying there is, through that, and through them not bowing, through them not giving in, the whole empire, the whole world found out about their God. Could you imagine the revival? Could you imagine the people that were watching that, the people that were seeing there? That was, because in my mind, those palaces they have, it's not just 3-4 people. There's a stadium. There's people. You can Google pictures. There's hundreds and hundreds of people watching the reaction, knowing, because they were over provinces. They were the governors of those lands. Everybody knew what was going to happen, but they did not bow. And through them not bowing, their whole world knew about their God. My question is, will your world know about your God? Will you bow? Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God, and I will strengthen you, and I will help. I will hold you with my righteous right hand. I finish this question again. Why me? Immediately, I hope it rings in your ears. Why not me? There's so much potential in this class, so much potential here, knowing that God's in control. That if you trust God, He will work out the rest. If you trust God and you allow God into every aspect of your life, if you allow Him in your relationships, you allow Him with your kids, if you allow Him in your job, if you allow Him with every foundation part of your life. I can't tell you how many times this week I got a phone call. Hey, this deal, what happened? How did you get it? And I told my boss, and I worked for him, it's a high target, and he's like, I can't tell my boss God. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the guy just called me. But I prayed, and I said, God, I have a need. God, this is what I want. God, this is what it is. And it's a lady I worked with years ago, Jason, this is what I need. And it just happened. It's not that I'm so good looking, they just call and give me POs. It's all God. That's all it is. I haven't talked to her in years. I haven't seen her in years. Honestly, I don't like her. She's annoying. But you know what? It's all God. And when you trust God, when you say, God, I trust you. God, I give this to you. When you take something that really hurts, something that's let you down, something that's failed you, something you don't understand, you can ask God questions. You can't question God. Don't do there, but you can ask God questions and say, why? Help me understand. God, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. But pointing the finger at somebody else or saying it's not my fault, God has a plan. God is not just happen chance. You're not just stumbling through and this just happened. And you just land here and go, here I am on Sunday morning. It's January 21st or whatever. It is the 21st. It's just not by accident. God has a plan. You're here for a reason. Your kids are here for a reason. Your family's here. They're watching for your reaction. They're watching your process. They want to see how it comes. I can't tell how many times I've gone through something and Sometimes it takes years later. And I'll stop and go, God, this is why you asked me to go through this. This is why you put me through this. I'm good with it. I can't tell you how many Sunday school lessons, and I'll go teach, and I'll go read something tomorrow. I thought you go to Sunday school. I'm good. What do you mean you're good? I said, I lived it. I don't need to read it. I mean, God allows you to go through things to help you, but also help you to bless others.
Right.
I'm not going to lie, sometimes that process is hard. Sometimes it hurts. And sometimes it takes years to look back and go, okay, God, I see this, and how this worked, and how this piece, and if this wasn't here, this wouldn't have happened. And it's hard to see that when you're in the midst of it or you're right after it, but 8, 9, 10, maybe 15 years later, you look up and go, okay, God, I fully get it. I fully understand. Because you don't know what the future holds. You don't know the people that you're going to interact with. You don't know the people you're going to intersect with, the people in the drive-thru, the waitresses, the waiters, the life, the circle we have that you can impact. Because we have promises. We have revival promises. God has a plan, a purpose for this church and His people. The plan is not just to stay how we are. The plan is to grow, is to share that word, to share what you have, to help people understand your testimony. Is it easy to tell somebody how to be saved? Everybody has their own way. What it's easiest to say, let me tell you what God has done for me.
Right.
Let me tell you how God has blessed me. You know, I have a guy that I work for, and he asked me, he said, how do you stay so positive? How do you do this? And I told him, I started laughing. I said, it's not always there. He said, but I want to be like you, Jason. And it's not me he's seeing. It's not Jason. It's the God in me that he wants.
Right.
And he's asking questions. And how did you raise like this? And how do I get my kids like that? And is there a church by me? And who do you recommend? And I didn't open that door, God, but it was the God in me that opened that door.
Right.
It's the God in me that keeps my cousin Matt from calling back and he cries on the way home and says, just pray for me. Because he hasn't given up. And I tell you, you have lost loved ones, they haven't given up. They know, they're watching, they understand, they see you in that process, and they see how you're reacting. But you have to choose and say, I may not know what to do, but I know what not to do.
Sure.
And I know that living for God is the only way. And never giving up and owning and saying, and I'm going to read it again, fear not. And yes, is the unknown scary? Yes. Is this life that I'm pushing, that I'm challenging, is it unpredictable? Yes. Do I not know No, I don't know what the future holds. But I can tell you God is with you. It says, be not dismayed, for I am with you, God. You have a promise. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I want to hold you in my righteous right hand. You just got to trust Him. Amen. And God will be there. Amen. Thank y'all so much. I love each and every one of you.